So they say that kitchens sell homes, but why are some kitchens doing the opposite of that? Today we're going to talk about how to properly photograph a kitchen so that you can sell the home and not detract buyers. So my last video was very casual and it was about how I film bathrooms and a few tips on how to do that. But I thought it would be helpful to do focus videos on how I photograph a handful of things. So on today's video, we're going to talk about how to photograph kitchens, which I think are kind of a big topic to talk about because I'm sure you've heard people say the kitchen is what can sell a home. And so if you're the photographer, you want to make sure that you're photographing it right. So today we're going to talk about ways to properly photograph a kitchen, but also how to stage it and how to present it in a way that is accurate to how the kitchen looks, but also just makes it sparkle like the crown jewel that it is of the home. But first, let's talk about photographing the right angles of kitchens. Obviously, you want to make sure that you're showing the whole kitchen, but you want to also kind of show the flow of the kitchen and how it feels to be in it. Since the people who are looking at your photos can't actually be there until they go on a showing or something, you want to help them get there as much as possible through the magic of photography. Some kitchens you photograph are going to look magnificent and like they've recently been remodeled and they're just going to be like mind-blowingly gorgeous, and other kitchens are going to be a little bit more lackluster, but still, if you can photograph them in a way that is advantageous to showing off how much someone can enjoy being in that kitchen, I think it's still helpful. All hope is not lost, even if it's not a showroom kind of kitchen. The first thing I like to show off is the kitchen overall. And something I struggle with is, do we do it straight on? Do we do an angle? So if the kitchen looks symmetrical, so if you're looking at the kitchen, there's an island that's nice and centered with the range or with a sink, then yeah, I would want to line that up and show that as your first stunning photo of the kitchen. I think it can feel really powerful and dynamic to just see it in all of its glory. But if it's a typical kitchen where it's not quite symmetrical, you might have an island and then an L-shaped countertop around it, fridge on the edge, I might photograph it at an angle because it might just look a little bit more interesting and fill the frame better. So I might stand maybe 35 to 45 degrees from the island and then shoot the kitchen going that way. And depending on how I feel that day or how much space there is in the house, I'm going to back up and show the entirety of the island, or I might get closer and crop in at the edge of the countertop. It just kind of depends on what I'm feeling, and I don't think it hurts to get both if you're in doubt. Now that angle in and of itself isn't enough. I always want to show also kind of the like hallways of the kitchen. I don't really know what you would call it, but when you're looking down between like the island and the countertop, or if it's a galley kitchen, you're looking down both countertops. So you can kind of get the vibe of what it feels like when you're actually walking in the kitchen, like if you're going to be cooking in there. It also adds a little bit of variety for the listing. As with all things with real estate photography, our camera is going to be about yay high, so maybe about 4 feet off the ground, and it's going to make the perspective on the photos look just a little bit more natural. The final angle I like to get whenever possible, especially in open concept floor plans, is the view from the kitchen looking out at the rest of the house. I don't always get this, but if I feel like it adds to the view of the home overall, I'm gonna go for it, especially if the island has something interesting in it like a sink, so it feels like you have a cool view looking from the island out towards the rest of the house. Now, I know every kitchen doesn't have an island. Every kitchen doesn't have an open concept. These are just suggestions in the event that that is the type of home that you are photographing. So I am not an interior design stager, but I do like to talk about how to make a space look flattering and how to use what you have in the space to make it more visually appealing. I have been in a lot of beautiful spaces that have been designed and styled by professionals, so I'm gonna use kind of what I've learned from them and observed, but I am not the professional in this category. I do tend to find that clear countertops are ideal. So if you are someone who has a lot of tchotchkes, or if you are photographing a kitchen that has a lot of ornamentation, they have a lot of appliances, maybe they have like prescription bottles and spices and things, my recommendation would be to find another home for those during the photo shoot. This is something that's good for your realtor to also communicate to your client. Most of my realtors will take care of that, so it's not going to be an issue. Everyone kind of agrees that if the countertops are clean, it's going to photograph better. It's going to give less visual clutter, less distraction for the viewer who is looking to potentially buy your home. And also it's going to make your kitchen look bigger. If the countertops don't have a lot of things on them, you will be able to imagine the things you could put on them as opposed to thinking, wow, those are really small because they're covered in all sorts of stuff. I think when it comes to styling kitchens, it's not so much about what you add, but what you take away. I look at my own kitchen and we've just got things, we've got papers in certain places, we've got a few appliances, and the more that you can remove, I think the more striking the kitchen will look, the cleaner it will look, the bigger the countertops will look. You've styled your kitchen and you've found some good angles, but what about appliances? A lot of people are going to have stainless steel appliances these days, which are really pretty, but they also show a lot of fingertips and dirty streaks. So we want to make sure that those are nice and clean for the photos. The same goes for glass top ovens, because those are going to look really streaky as well. Now you might show up to a kitchen and see that, oh my gosh, like the fridge looks terrible and there's nothing here to clean it with. I can't wipe down the oven because I don't have like a towel or anything. And so you can always edit those out, but it's just something to be mindful of. Another super easy trick when you're editing is just to desaturate those stainless steel appliances. That's going to get rid of any color cast and it's going to make them look a little bit newer, a little bit brighter, more fresh. Now, if the kitchen does have some features that were maybe updated in a remodel or just look extra pretty, like a backsplash or open shelving or a stunning 11-foot island, we want to make sure that we feature that. So if you're photographing a big island, make sure it actually looks big in the photo. If there's open shelving, maybe do a straight on photo of the shelving that's not so angled, so you make sure that the viewer is looking at the shelving itself and realizing, oh my gosh, there is some beautiful shelving happening here. Highlighting those features may not seem like a big deal, but it is a small thing that you can do to attract more potential buyers to that listing and make your realtors happy. As with all things with real estate photography, you're not just selling a room, you're not selling a house, you're selling a lifestyle. You're selling a person's potential life that they are wanting to live in that house. You're not just selling countertops and backsplashes. And so it's important to have that in mind as you're taking photos. You're telling a person where they're going to celebrate their daughter's birthday or toast to a promotion, whatever it is people do in kitchens, I don't really know. That's what you are going to be selling through the photos that you're sharing. And so keep that in mind as you're taking photos. It's not just about, getting the details, getting the fixtures, getting the angles. It's about getting the vibe. So let's get into a little Q&A about photographing kitchens. The first question is, what is the best angle to photograph a kitchen? And I would say 45 degrees is probably my favorite, in that 30 to 45 degree angle, so that you can photograph the island at an angle, or the countertops if there is no island, but you're getting the entirety of the kitchen. If the kitchen is symmetrical, if it has an island and a really nice backsplash and range behind it, I would definitely want that as my key angle, which would be like straight on. It just depends on the layout of the kitchen, but 45 or straight on. The next question is, should I leave out appliances like a toaster oven or coffee maker? And as with so many things with photography, it depends. So a toaster oven, I would almost certainly want to hide away. It's really hard for those to look clean and they take up a lot of counter space. But occasionally coffee makers or a cute little espresso maker might look cute and kind of elevate the kitchen depending on what it looks like. If it's your typical Mr. Coffee, I might kick them out. But if it's like a fancy Breville espresso maker, we would leave them because it kind of shows that lifestyle like we're talking about, and it also just might be pretty and kind of gives some scale to the kitchen. So the third question is, how do you avoid reflections on appliances? And this is like a common frustrating thing that I experience, and there's really no way around it. A lot of times there's going to be an angle that you want of the kitchen or whatever it is that you're photographing, and you're gonna get a reflection of yourself. So I make sure to just edit that out after the fact. I have been working with an editor this year, so they will normally take care of that for me. Also, just using the desaturation does help a lot from eliminating distractions that might be reflected in the appliances. 4, what's more important, photographing the layout or the finishes? If this were interior design photography, I would say, the finishes probably. Finishes are really exciting, but both are pretty important, because if you have a good layout of a kitchen, but you have junky old Formica countertops, it's not gonna be great. But I do think that a layout is a lot more expensive and harder to change than a finish. And so as a potential buyer, I would say probably prioritize layout. You're going to want to know if you're looking at a listing, like how big is the kitchen? Am I gonna have room for everything? Am I going to have space for all of my stuff that I like to cook with? And so if the layout isn't good, then that's going to be a lot more work to change than just switching out a countertop or a backsplash. So my vote would be for layout. The fifth question is it okay to shoot a kitchen with the lights on or off? I once had a realtor tell me, it just looks kind of odd with the lights off. I come from an interior design background, I feel like, more than a real estate background. And so my heart of hearts really wants the lights to be off. But that's kind of the industry standard for real estate photography. They love to see those lights on. They love to see it as bright as possible. They just love to show there's bulbs in those light fixtures, and I totally get it. So we leave the lights on, but we correct the color in post when we're editing. The sixth question is, do darker kitchens need special editing or lighting? Occasionally I will be in an espresso dark kitchen and think, oh my gosh, we need more light in here. But most of the time I'll be just fine if I shoot just with a longer exposure, open that shutter speed for longer, and I'm okay. It's amazing what you can do with good editing and HDR photo merging. 7, what makes a kitchen feel high-end without staging? To make a kitchen feel high-end, tidy it. If you're not able to stage it for some reason, or you just don't want to deal with staging it or hiring someone or figuring it out on your own, just make it as tidy as possible and eliminate distractions. There is something really funny about minimalism and the association that it has with being wealthy and well off. And I don't really understand it. It's like, I am so successful, I don't need anything. So having a kitchen that says less is more by having less things in the kitchen, less distractions, can better get that message across. Thank you so much for watching and sticking around to learn about how I photograph kitchens and my approach to them. Hopefully this was helpful for you as you are in your real estate photography journey and learning more about how to take epic photos. Thanks for joining me and my baby girl here as we teach you about those things. If you have any questions, as always, comment below. I'm so happy to chat and go over any questions you might have. And if you like this channel, subscribe so you can see more of my content. We're going to be sharing more about real estate photography in the future.